The Bermuda Triangle, if you take the same area of the ocean and move it to another area of the world with similar levels of maritime activity and nearby settlements, the number of disappearances and oddities will be the same. There is an excellent book called The Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved by Larry Kusch. He collected every book he could find, compiled a database of every ship and airplane supposedly disappeared in the triangle, and conducted his own investigation. He classified almost all cases as follows. The ship or plane disappeared for perfectly explainable reasons. The ship or plane ran into terrible meteorological conditions. The books often claim that the weather was perfect. The ship or plane was first declared missing but was soon found. The books didn't mention it. There is no evidence that such a ship or plane existed at all, except in books about the Bermuda Triangle. He also found that any disappearances of ships in the Atlantic could be attributed to the triangle. Sometimes they even recorded disasters that occurred in the Pacific. The Dyatlov Pass Mystery, 1959. 9 Russian tourists were found dead in the Ural Mountains. Strange injuries, missing eyes and tongues. And no signs of struggle. Among the theories are UFOs, snowman, and Soviet weapons. In 2021, researchers concluded that it was a delayed snow slab avalanche. Pressure from snow and hypothermia caused panic and injury, and the disappearance of soft tissues is explained by wild animals. They got lost in the wilderness, panicked, acted irrationally, and after death, their bodies were damaged by scavengers. This is the explanation for most disappearances in the wild. Chupacabra. It's described as a dog-like creature because that's what it is. It's a dog. I saw a coyote on a trail camera that looked very bad. I don't know if he was rabid or just sick, but he looked very scary, like something out of a cartoon. I can easily imagine someone seeing something like that and deciding it was a chupacabra. The frequency of Bigfoot reports in the US directly correlates with the bear population. Bears really do look creepy when they stand on their hind legs. It's no wonder people mistake them for Bigfoot, especially if the bear has mange. Then it really looks like a cryptid from a nightmare. The same with deer that start twitching and walking on their hind legs. People freak out and talk about skinwalkers or werewolves. In reality, it's called chronic wasting disease, CWD. It affects prions in the brain. This disease is extremely contagious. So if you see an animal that may be infected with CWD, call the Department of Wildlife Conservation or similar service immediately, giving coordinates. The herd will most likely need to be called and the carcasses disposed of to prevent spread. The American ship Cyclops, a U.S. Navy vessel carrying coal that disappeared in March 2018. This disappearance is often called the largest ship loss in the history of the fleet. Its wreckage was never found. People usually see something sinister or supernatural in its disappearance, which supposedly proves the existence of the Bermuda Triangle in that area of the Atlantic. Despite the fact that the exact cause of the vessel's disappearance is unknown, it takes a little digging to understand what most likely happened to it. Cyclops was built to carry coal, but at that time it was carrying manganese ore. Manganese is heavier and denser than coal, so the holds were not completely full, and the cargo was able to shift, causing a loss of balance. There are also suspicions that the vessel was overloaded. In addition, manganese ore reacts with the remaining beams, causing corrosion and weakening the hull. Something similar had already been observed on another vessel, the USS Jason. There was another case. A ship called Chucky was so badly damaged by corrosion that it broke in half in calm weather. According to weather reports, the Cyclops may have encountered a storm with winds of 30 to 40 knots. In such conditions, if the bow and stern of the ship are lifted by waves, the hull can bend and even break. In addition, 3 of the 4 ships of this Proteus class went missing at sea. Cyclops and 2 sister ships. The 4th was sunk by Japanese aircraft in World War II, which clearly speaks to the design flaws of this line of ships. Putting it all together, it becomes obvious what most likely happened. The vessel had a vulnerable design and a weakened hull. It was carrying a heavy and unstable cargo, ran into a storm, and either capsized or broke apart and sank. The mysterious disappearance of Amelia Earhart. People found her shoe, compact, windshield from an airplane, and a jar of freckle cream that she always carried with her. All this on Nikumaroro Island. Her last distress signal came from the area of this island. Damn, just 3 years after the crash, bones were found that matched her parameters. This mystery has been solved more than once, but yesterday another report came out that they are sending another expedition to solve the mystery. The so-called lost colony on Roanoke Island did not disappear in some mysterious way, but for perfectly understandable reasons that are well documented. The colonists sent Governor White to England for supplies. They said that if they had to leave the settlement, they would leave instructions as to where they had gone, most likely to the Croatan allies. When White returned, several years later than planned, he found the word Croatan carved into a tree. Today, this is presented as a mysterious message, but then it was taken quite unambiguously. White was sure that the colonists were alive and had gone to the Croatans. There were no signs of struggle, and they managed to take all the caches. Years later, the Croatans began to have children with blue eyes and fair skin. But White did not have time to confirm this. The ship broke its anchor, and his crew insisted on returning to England. This left room for future fantasies and mythologization. Although initially there was no mystery in this story. The so-called Battle of Los Angeles. 2 months after Pearl Harbor, American soldiers in a state of panic and paranoia opened fire on an object that they later described as a balloon. After that, they behaved mysteriously and evasively because A. War, B. did not want to admit that they had shelled a residential area trying to shoot down their own weather balloon. Stondog in Morse code is the same dots and dashes as SCTIR. SC is Santiago Airport and AR means reception. That is, the mysterious last transmission from the Stardust aircraft was a normal message to the air traffic controller about the place of arrival. Spontaneous human combustion. This topic became popular at the intersection of two phenomena: widespread smoking and the appearance of cheap, highly flammable furniture. If such a thing really existed, we would already have a video recording from a phone or surveillance camera. But no, there is always a specific reason. I thought that the ignition of pants due to low-quality vapes might revive interest in the topic, but in the video, everything is always crystal clear. All my childhood I was afraid of spontaneously combusting. Forgot about it until this comment. Crop circles. Now they even hold competitions to create different art in the fields. And most ghosts are actually rats. They beat their backs against the bottom of the floorboards, and people mistake it for footsteps. They scratch and knock on the walls, they can cause a fire by gnawing through wires, they spread stench, move things, carry objects from room to room in a few days. They drop things off shelves, activate calls and signals, watch you, and you feel it. They scare pets who react to what you don't see. They push in drawers, squeal like cats or babies, and so on. They can squeeze through tiny holes and hide perfectly, even if there are dozens of them in the house. Michael Rockefeller, drowned. He did not join some tribe of Papuans and was not eaten. He was last seen trying to swim to shore for help after their boat capsized. It was almost 3 kilometers to the shore through a shark estuary with strong currents and bad weather. Rockefeller, although he could swim, almost certainly died of exhaustion without reaching the shore. The irony is that 2 of his companions were eventually able to turn the boat back over and swim to shore without any injuries. They immediately went in search of Rockefeller, but found nothing. Archimedes' solar death ray. Mythbusters devoted at least 2 episodes of their show to this topic. It was fun, but the Our Fake History podcast presents the most substantiated point of view. The idea of mirrors focusing sunlight came much later. There is no reliable evidence that such a device was used in battles. The stupidity is that there is a reliable description of the real miracle device of Archimedes used in the Battle of Syracuse. Surviving sailors told of a giant claw that lifted ships by one end, then dropped them back, smashing and sinking them. The so-called claw of Archimedes most likely existed and was something like a combat cargo crane with a hook. My grandmother began to lose her vision due to glaucoma. It was about 20 years ago. She began to see ghosts, and especially clearly she saw my grandfather, who had died many years ago. It seemed to her that he was lying with her in bed. She was not prone to mysticism and told us and her doctor about what was happening. It turned out that her brain was trying to adapt to the sharp loss of vision, trying to somehow interpret the blurred shadows and shapes she saw, and turned to her memory in search of a suitable image to fill the void. The brain found a suitable one and inserted it.